just got here.
There's a lot of that'll be those two final two. Those could be
Noticing that it's not, primaries are not going to be very expensive for a couple of months. Except for Texas.
Even in Iran, got the lean.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. As you all know, we are spending a good amount of our time and energy here in the Senate on nominations these days. And we've seen an unprecedented level of obstruction and delay and blocking from Democrats. And as a consequence of that, we've had to kind of grind through, and that's what we're going to keep doing. If you look at just the historical precedent with regard to noms, we have never seen in history anything like what the Democrats are now doing. As of this date, back in 2021, Joe Biden had gotten 46 nominees confirmed either by voice vote or unanimous consent. Donald Trump has zero, not a single one confirmed by voice or unanimous consent. And further, the Democrats are making it hard even on bipartisan nominees that sometimes will get 60 votes plus on the floor, one even up to 83 votes on the floor. So even the bipartisan noms are being blocked and delayed, so much so that the Democrats have been forcing me, when I file cloture just to get a nominee considered on the floor, to go in and out of executive and legislative session. So these are just dilatory tactics designed to block and obstruct the president and his agenda. And the sad reality is that there are a lot of these people who fill important positions in our government who need to be able to be confirmed to get there so they can do their jobs. And that's the way of the American people. That's what they voted for. They voted for this president, and he has not had an opportunity to get the people that he wants to have man his administration get there to do their job. So this has got to stop, and clearly the Democrats are starting something and creating a precedent that is going to come back to haunt them. This is really bad. This is a bad practice on their part. because as you all know, what goes around comes around here. And I think regrettably for the Democrats, they're going to rue the day if they keep this practice up. So I am hoping that they will work with us, come to their senses in the next few days here to try and put together a package of nominees. There are a whole bunch of bipartisan nominees that are out there that are available for consideration right now. But this simply is, again, I've said it before, but it is. It's Trump derangement syndrome on steroids with the Senate Democrats. There are Senate Democrats who actually do want to work on getting some noms through the process, but their leadership is blocking that. And unfortunately, here in the Senate, at least on the Democrat side of the aisle, it is the tail wagging the dog. It is the far left of their caucus that is preventing even good government people who are bipartisan, from getting confirmed. So that's got to change, and if it doesn't, we're going to be here a while. So with that, we'll try and answer questions.
We know what Russ Vogt had said about a less bipartisan appropriations process. Will you ultimately be looking to the president himself about what he wants in government funding, and do you think he would be willing to, give the Democrats some breaks, to give them some opportunity to get onto whatever form of a spending bill take shape in September?
I think it's in everybody's interest to avoid a government shutdown at the end of September, which, as you all know, is when our fiscal year ends. And obviously, in order for that to happen, it's going to take some cooperation from Democrats. So I think the president is prepared to deal, to negotiate. He's proven that in the past. And obviously, we have bills on the floor right now, or a bill on the floor, which are trying to convert into bills, to make it a package of bills to consider to keep the appropriations process moving forward. And obviously, we are all very concerned on our side of the aisle in finding ways to make our country more fiscally sustainable and to find savings within the appropriations process and the other areas of government funding that fall under the mandatory side of the budget. But we very much want to see restraint in spending so that we can start dealing with the debt and the deficits. And I think the best way, at least right now, to do that is to have a normal appropriations process. And a number of my colleagues are on that committee and have been working aggressively to try and get bills ready for consideration on the floor. And I just hope now that we can get a path forward to do that. If at the end of the fiscal year the Democrats use any other suggestion made by anybody in the administration as a cover for not doing appropriations bills, or worse yet, as a cover for trying to shut the government down, that is an argument that's not going to be sustainable. And so if we end up with a Schumer shutdown at the end of the year, the Democrats are going to own that. In the meantime, we're going to do everything we can to try and move the appropriations process forward, which is why we called up and put on the floor the Milcon VA appropriations bill last week.
How are you going to handle a CR at the end of September? Will you do what you did in March, basically take a House-passed package, bring it to the floor, or would you enter a four corners negotiation ahead of time?
Well, to be determined. I think a lot of that depends on how cooperative the Democrats are in trying to get the appropriations process moving forward. Obviously, I would say all options are on the table when it comes to funding the government. But what I can tell you is we are going to look for ways to keep the government funded and open and operating. And what we hear, at least rhetorically, coming out of the Democrats right now is they have a very different view of the world. And they're already talking openly about a shutdown. And I think the politics on their side of the aisle right now is such that, as I said, the far left, the wing of their party in the Senate, is calling the shots. And I don't think that's in anybody's best interest. So I'm not taking any options off the table. But what I will tell you today is that as we look at this week and then the subsequent weeks coming in September, I intend to use those weeks to try and get appropriation bills done so that when we get to that year-end conversation, we're prepared to have hopefully a substantive conversation about what the best way is to fund the government.
Thank you so much, sir. You have a situation now where the president says the images coming out of Gaza are bad. He's thinking about opening food centers there. You have a Republican, Marjorie Taylor Greene, calling it a genocide. You have American support for Benjamin Netanyahu slipping. What do you say?
Well, I think that I share the president's view. I think that the humanitarian thing, obviously, when you see people hurting in a need like that, is to want to help meet that need and alleviate that pain. And so I think our government and I think other governments around the world, other nations, are very interested in doing what they can to make sure that people who, through no fault of their own, are being harmed by what's happening there. But you got to understand, too, that when you've got a terrorist group like Hamas operating in that region, they're going to intercept and divert a lot of that food aid that's going in there. And I think that's the challenge that the Israelis have, that's the challenge that we have, and other nations around the world who are trying to step in and help. But I don't think, I think all of us want to see, obviously, a peaceful solution there that gets the hostages freed and ends the reign and rule of Hamas in the region. But in the meantime, do everything we can to ease the pain and the hunger that's afflicting so many of the people in that region of the world.
What role does Congress have to play?
Another issue you spoke about this morning was agriculture, the safety net provisions in the one big beautiful bill. We still don't have a 5-year farm bill. Given everything else going on here, calendar this fall, what do you see as the prospects for finishing the job? I'm talking about food security. You're talking against, many of you have said, national security. And we still don't have that.
Yeah, well, and it is every bit of that. Food security is a national security issue. Certainly other countries around the world view it that way. And yes, I would love to get the elements of the Farm Bill that didn't get done in the One Big Beautiful Bill dealt with in a normal way through the regular bipartisan 60 vote threshold way of doing things around here. But that said, we did do a ton of Farm Bill policy in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Everything from the safety net programs, the agriculture risk coverage program, price loss coverage program, those were addressed, reference prices were raised, risk management was addressed through crop insurance, a lot of conservation policy in there, a lot of disaster policy with regard to livestock in particular. So there were a number of things done in the One Big Beautiful Bill that address what has been a problem, and that is that we haven't been able to get a bipartisan farm bill across the finish line in the last couple of years. Are there other things that need to be done? Yes. But I think we made good headway there, and we'll look for opportunities to finish the job. But remember, it's hard to find time to do things on the floor when you're spending all your time on nominations, which is where we are right now. And if the Democrats, they can change that if they want to, but it's very hard to do substantive legislation at a time when we're dealing with personnel 24/7, which is the situation we find ourselves in right now. And as I said, that's going to change. And if it doesn't change, we're going to grind it out here, and Democrats are going to be here whether they like it or not. Thanks.
On Russia. Just because as time ran out, the U.S.
Well, so the House will be a true.
Right, we got asked on the way out about recess.
The House, yes, the House did not approve it, and the Turner was dismayed. And so since the House is gone, and you need the House to approve an adjournment, and then for them to approve an adjournment, then you have to be on the same page. That does not happen. And that said, could just sneak one through on a pro forma maybe. You know, I mean, everybody would go listen. If you did that, I think we're here voting on something of that nature. You can't be in the proper posture. I remember on the weekend ahead of the House had preemptively passed an adjournment resolution on the premise that the Senate then they had to change it. The Senate was then on a Friday or something. And nobody, so Scalia dies on a Saturday. Nobody around here would tell me definitively why not the House actually approved my term. And finally I got hold of somebody because I said, I think, right, that they were in the proper posture to have an adjournment. And again, it has to be so many days, it has to be more than 11 days. See, that's going to be the other problem. If you do it too late, I would look at the House recess. Because in these court cases, they said it's basically 9 to 10 days. So August potentially is kind of right if you've done it early. But you start to get into that crush unless you've done it by the second week or something and they're scheduled to come back. Can't really be up that much. And you create a terrible precedent. So, that is the funny thing. It's an interesting question. It's never going to happen that way. It's really hard to do. Well, with one exception, if you look at the Constitution, and this has never happened, is that it says that the president may determine one house or all. It says that in Article 2, Section 2. And that one has never happened. So then you get into some very interesting extra when I see somebody, there was a headline today, I see a guy said, "We're not going up in ice in the pond." They said, "You're on planet Earth." Well, that's the whole
How you doing today, Chad? I'm doing great today.
Okay. Show the Ohio part. Round to go, and then I can really see Okay. And that's okay for shifting things around a little bit. That's not, you know, French George was counted as states of China. That's a good point. Yeah, okay. Okay, and then could you take out your, what is it? Well, I didn't mind, well, no, I didn't understand your point about why, I did not understand. Well, I thought it was interesting. What do you mean? Right. See, I was trying to put Infume was more texture than anything. Not so much heat. That's okay. Let me take a picture. Okay, let me see what's take a look at it. Okay, I'll take a look. Thank you. All right, I'll see you.
TNC, we'll run a date in Montreal. I didn't know that.
What is happening? Something's wrong with that man. And then married her, like married
Look, I'm just fine for those things. You know, I think Chuck Schumer's leaving. Yeah. Would you have set up for the meeting?
Queen basketball.
When I went to my checkup, they let me take pictures of the x-rays. Would you like to see the metal that's holding it together now? All that's in there now. I fell to the right off my line scooter, and the scooter went to the left. So I was on the sidewalk, and I broke my collarbone. I'm not sure what I hit, but I didn't hit my head. I only hit my collarbone. Thank goodness. But yeah, broke that thing. Yeah, well, no more lime for me. No more lime. I just get a class action going. Yeah, I know it's true. But, right? Yeah. Like the 3-3-3-3 style and all. Yeah. No, Katie Foley with Baracho also had to get multiple stitches from falling off the scooter. So I'm like, maybe we need to get something moving here. I don't know.
I've never been on one. I remember one time I was running late and almost got almost to something. And I said, I've never been on one, especially since I'm running late. That's really good. Not to go on vacation. I was running late for something the day before.
The day before you're about to
And
leave,
I'm
yeah.
like, I said that would be
Catastrophic.
So I'm just going to walk really fast.
Wise. I need to take a page out of your book. I needed to start walking really fast instead of getting on scooters across town. Good question. Hard-hitting journalism right here.
Hello, everybody. So I'm joined with two of our great members of the lineup. Batting number 3, Patty Murray. Batting number 4, Amy Klobuchar.
3 is 2.
Pitching, Chuck Schumer.
You've got holes in your
I'm pi-
lineup about like the Yankees.
I'm pitching, yeah. Oh, we shouldn't mention the Yankees. I'm leaving. Who's 2? Many people might fit into number 2.
Okay, you
as a leader says. Okay, anyway, President Trump and Senate Republicans, their agenda boils down to three things: costs, chaos, corruption. Let's start off with costs. The Yale Budget Lab this week estimated that Trump's tariffs will cost U.S. households $2,400 a year. For a hardworking family, $2,400 is a lot. Healthcare costs are going to skyrocket. That's not just due to the big ugly bill, but because Republicans failed to extend the ACA's premium tax credits, which expire at the end of the year, even though we Senate Dems tried three times to do so. What does this mean? It means very soon, not on October 1st, 2020, not on January 1st, 2027, but as soon as this month, next month, Americans, 24 million Americans, will soon get a letter in the mail telling them that their premiums are going to go up in 2026, and that's not a small increase. The estimates are very large increases. If Republicans don't work with us to restore these credits, premiums are supposed to go up 75%, and they're going up so much that 5% of Americans, 5 million Americans, they're going up so much that 5 million Americans will lose coverage altogether because they won't be able to afford it. So to be clear, 17 million Americans will be kicked off health care because of what the Republicans did this month, and what they have refused to do, extend the tax credits to make health care more affordable in their massive tax bill. They had a lot of room for billionaire tax cuts, but not to prevent these premiums from going up on middle-class families. As costs go up, so does chaos. Donald Trump's trade war, total chaos. 1 minute he says yes to tariffs, the next he says no. After that, he changes his mind. Someone in our caucus today got up and said they calculated he made 100 changes in the tariffs already. Okay? What about DOGE? Again, unmitigated chaos. DOGE has fired, rehired, and fired again everyone from VA workers to medical researchers to USAID workers, even to nuclear safety personnel. Social Security is being hollowed out. 7,000 staffers were fired. Wait times on the phones have gone up. Online services have gone dark at times. Millions of seniors who depend on Social Security have been left in the dark. So with costs rising and chaos rising at an all-time high, what are the White House and Senate Republicans focused on? Unprecedented corruption, aided and abetted by Senate Republicans. Trump accepted a luxury plane from Qatar to use as Air Force One, with potentially hundreds of millions in taxpayer dollars to be spent on renovations. He turned the South Lawn of the White House into a Tesla dealership. His family is getting rich off schemes and selling access for profit. Trump's rampant self-stealing puts corruption front and center. I've never witnessed, and I think in American history, an administration that enriches themselves from their government actions. It's gross. And of course, that leads us to the Jeffrey Epstein cover-up. Trump promised he'd release the Epstein files while he was on the campaign trail, yet he has yet to do it. Speaker Johnson quite literally preferred to shut down Congress, sending everyone home on an Epstein recess to avoid the topic. Americans are right to be angry over the lack of transparency, but there are also some very real questions about risks to national security. Given Trump's total about-face on releasing files and giving what we know from the FBI whistleblowers, it's natural to ask, what happens if our adversaries use cyber attacks and other means to access files and materials into Epstein that are damaging or worse for President Trump and or those around him? What happens if the Epstein files end up in the hands of Russia or North Korea or Chinese governments? Unless the Epstein files are fully released to the public, could our adversaries use that use that information to blackmail someone like the president? And what kind of risk would that be for our national security? So today, I called on the FBI to immediately conduct a counterintelligence threat to ensure we understand the risk posed if a foreign adversary were to gain access to anything connected with the files, to determine three things: if foreign intelligence agencies could gain access to the files, second, for the FBI to identify any vulnerabilities that could be exploited by foreign intelligence agents, and third, for the FBI to show publicly they're developing mitigation strategies so this couldn't happen. Last Thursday, DHS and HHS were among several government agencies hacked as part of a breach to Microsoft's SharePoint system. This was confirmed that it was Chinese actors, so we don't need this happening again. We have to ensure that it can't happen. National security is not and should never be a partisan issue. We need to do everything we can to make sure we're protecting the U.S. and American families. This report is vital in doing that. Beyond that, there is one more thing Donald Trump could do to quell people's anger, confusion, frustration, and our deep fears. That is, release the files. Senator Murray.
Thank you. Well, Trump's first few months in office have been nothing but chaos. His definition of fixing things is breaking them and then lying about it. Look no further than Social Security and the VA. I just heard from a constituent who called their local Social Security office for 3 straight days and could not get an answer. So they drove to a field office where every seat was filled. By 8 in the morning, an hour before the office opened, people started lining up, and by 3:30 that afternoon, people started getting turned away. Best they could do was sign up for a later appointment. Why? Because the office was staffed by just one person. That is what happens when Trump pushes out thousands of Social Security workers with no plan. That's what happens when Trump pulls people off of casework to answer phones. And that's what happens when Republicans blow trillions on tax breaks for billionaires while Doge penny pitches by gutting Social Security. Here's a message for Donald Trump. Seniors in this country who need their Social Security do not want to deal with an AI chatbot. The people pay for Social Security. The government owes the people that money. It is not Donald Trump's money. When you make it nearly impossible for Americans to get their benefits, that is a benefit cut. This chaos cannot continue. Meanwhile, we have a VA secretary who seems to be more interested in picking fights with me on social media than taking any accountability for his actual job. He fired thousands upon thousands of random probationary employees, and VA had to scramble to rehire. Therapists and treating PTSD have been forced now to work in open-air office cubicles where everyone can hear them. VA contracts have been canceled with seemingly no one checking what they are for first, including a cancer registry in my state. Doug Collins still can't give us a straight answer about how many contracts have been terminated, and he is celebrating that he's driven 30,000 VA employees out the door. Hundreds of doctors and more than 1,700 registered nurses have quit because of Collins and Trump. And when veterans share their concerns, like after Doug Collins explicitly removed language requiring VA doctors to care for veterans regardless of their politics or marital status, the answer from him is, don't worry, we'll fix it. The answer isn't, sorry, we're going to fix that. He says, don't worry, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter? So why did he do it in the first place? And why not just put those protections back in? Here's the thing to understand about the Trump administration. These people have the wrong incentives and the wrong priorities. They will never admit a mistake, and they will always pick a fight. Every cabinet member is focused on social media and confrontation. Every failure is an opportunity to double down and lie about how you're actually making America great. They care more about getting a pat on the head from Donald Trump for a viral moment than about the chaos they are creating for regular people. Americans feel that chaos, You can't just fix that by going on Fox and saying it doesn't exist. You can't spin seniors wondering why they're waiting longer than ever for getting help with Social Security. And you cannot spin VA psychologists who veterans trust and rely on quitting because they're making themselves heard. For my part, I'm going to keep lifting up their voices.
Very good. Thank you. So it has been 190 days since President Trump took office, and people were promised a bunch of stuff in that election. They were promised it in Colorado, they were promised it in Texas, and they were promised it in North Carolina. North Carolina's on my mind today. There's a few things going on there. Higher costs is what we've gotten instead. Higher costs from the health care to people's housing to grocery stores. I was up in Grand Marais, Minnesota, and saw someone walk out of a grocery store, just happened to be walking in, saw her look at her receipt, she was looking down, and she's just, no. That's how people are feeling. They're looking down at those going, no, I can't afford this. He's given us more chaos, from Social Security and the VA to the Weather Service and FEMA. I'm going to an ag hearing tomorrow that I called for oversight, and I'm glad Senator Bozeman is doing this, where they've decided to split the USDA into 5 hubs, including Utah, which means they will be incredibly less effective than they are doing their research and being able to work like other agencies do. We have seen new levels of corruption, whether it is the billionaire tax credits or what Senator Schumer just spoke to, which is the Epstein scandal. Americans know the president is not delivering what he has promised. So one of the things as we go into August that people should think about is that it's not just all far off. It's happening right now. It's happening in November when 20 million Americans signed up for health insurance will see higher premiums, $700 more on average across the country. In Minnesota, Michigan, and Maine, we're going to see premium increases up by 15% for the Affordable Care Act plans. In Texas, Georgia, and Vermont, they may surge by more than 20%. 7 million Americans are expected to lose their health care. Rural hospitals. I went on a tour of those over the weekend, and I can tell you they are hanging on already by a string. They've got to deal not only with the Medicaid cuts I just talked about, they've got to deal with the Medicare because of the huge trillions of dollars in debt. $4 trillion this bill added. It triggered automatic Medicare cuts of $500 billion, a lot of them landing on hospitals, and particularly rural hospitals. 300 expected to close. The other thing that's happening right now, tariffs. We all know that. August 1st, the big, beautiful deadline. And as Chuck mentioned, this president has changed these tariffs over 100 times in just these last 190 days. They are already facing higher costs. It's a tax on families, and imagine bragging about imposing a $100 billion tax on Americans. So whether it's the women I saw coming out of the grocery store, or it's the people who are calling in Social Security benefits in Washington State, can't get anyone to answer their call. Guy just lost his wife in my state, finally had to drive in, couldn't get anyone to talk to, finally had to call our office, finally had to drive hundreds of miles to try to get help. Americans are paying the price for this health care sabotage, and sadly our Republican colleagues have done nothing but rubber stamp.
Stop yelling. Yes, a non-yeller.
You mentioned the ACA and the expiring tax credits. Are you talking to Republicans, and do you have any sort of specific offers to try and get them to the table?
Look, the bottom line is this is a terrible thing. Republicans had 3 times to make this better because we offered it 3 times, and they didn't do it. It's a serious, serious burden that's going to start taking effect in very real ways this fall. Yes, over there. Neither am I. Okay, let me say two things. Number one, as people see the contrast between what the Republicans are going to do and what we want to do, they are going to believe Democrats are more on their side. In one of the very polls you cited where they said Democrats were lower, they still asked, do you prefer Democrats or Republicans? Democrats, even now, we're up 3. We're going to be up more. Yes. Look, I very much want to do the sanctions bill. I think it has like 84 co-sponsors, including myself and Senator Thune. We have to be tough with Putin. He's taking advantage. I think the president's even becoming exasperated. So we hope we can move the tariff bill quickly.
Leader Schumer, what about on recess appointments or rules changes? Senate Republicans are considering those, sir?